A few years ago, I moved into a small house on the outskirts of Sacramento, California. After spending several years living in busy downtown apartments, I wanted a place that offered more privacy and quiet. This new neighborhood was peaceful with tidy houses and wide streets lined with tall trees far from the city noise. I had grown accustomed to it, quickly settled into a comfortable routine, enjoying the tranquility and security. The neighborhood seemed to provide. My home was modest but cozy, a single-story bungalow with a fenced backyard and enough privacy to make me feel at ease. My work schedule was demanding, often requiring long hours and late nights. Because of this, cooking wasn't always practical, and I frequently found myself ordering takeout, especially during evenings when exhaustion outweighed my desire to cook. On one particular night in October, after a lengthy day at work, I returned home feeling unusually tired. The clock had just passed 10, and I hadn't eaten anything substantial all day. Deciding cooking was out of the question. I grabbed my phone and ordered Chinese food from a familiar local restaurant I often relied upon. It was reliable, fast, and always open late. I finished placing my order, the confirmation showing an estimate delivery time of around 30 minutes. While I waited, I busied myself tidying up the kitchen and preparing for a quiet evening of rest. About 25 minutes later, the soft chime of my doorbell chode through the quiet houses. Surprised by the early arrival, I approached the front door cautiously, an instinct I developed after years of living alone. Before unlocking the door, I glanced through the small peephole, a habit I practiced religiously. Standing just outside my front door was a young man in his mid-20s. She wore ordinary clothing, a dark jacket, jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low, but immediately I noticed something unsettling. There was no food in his hands, no plastic bag, no box, nothing. Puzzled, I called the door, asking him if he had my order. He hesitated for just a second, then explained that he had left the food in his car, claiming he had accidentally grabbed the wrong bag and wanted to confirm my order before bringing it to the door. His explanation felt strange. In all the times I had ordered food, no delivery driver had ever left it in their car. First, it made no sense, and my instincts kicked in. Politely but firmly, I told him through the door that I would prefer he bring the food to the door before I opened it. He paused, clearly caught off guard by my request. I repeated that the food wasn't his vehicle and assured me it would only take a moment if I would simply open the door. His voice remained calm, yet a subtle urgency lingered beneath his words, heightening my suspicion. Feeling increasingly uneasy, I insisted again that he bring the food directly to the doorstep. After another short pause, he agreed, mumbling quietly, then turned away and walked the path toward the street. He watched through the peephole as she moved out of sight. After several minutes, it was clear he was not coming back. I felt relieved, though confused. Immediately, I called the restaurant to inquire about the strange interaction. When the manager answered, I explained the situation. He seemed confused, checking his records twice before assuring me my order had not yet even left their restaurant. My actual driver was still preparing to leave with my food. A chill of unease settled over me. I realized the man at my door had not been from the restaurant. Concerned, I called the non-emergency police number to report what had happened. The dispatcher took my information, promised a patrol would check the neighborhood, and advised me to remain vigilant. As I hung up the phone, I could feel my pulse quickening, anxiety settling in my stomach. Something was very wrong. I locked every window and checked each door carefully, double-checking the back entrance, especially ensuring everything was secure. After several tense minutes, I forced myself to calm down, rationalizing that the man had probably mistaken my house for someone else's. My genuine order arrived soon after, delivered by a friendly older gentleman whom I'd seen before. His reassuring presence made me feel better, and I managed to eat my food in relative peace. About 20 minutes after the genuine delivery man left, however, I heard a faint noise coming from the rear of my house. It was subtly quiet, scraping, barely audible, but in the stillness of the house, the sound felt deafening. A frozen place, listening intently. Another soft scratching sound followed, more deliberate this time. I knew immediately what it was. The back door handle was being carefully tested. Panic surged through me, but I managed to keep calm enough to quietly move toward my phone and dial 911, whispering urgently to the dispatcher as the sounds at the back door persisted. Within minutes, the flashing reflected through my windows and casting eerie patterns along the walls. So I watched anxiously as officers moved swiftly around my property, eventually knocking gently on my front door till I know it was safe. They had not found the intruder, but there was clear evidence as someone had tried forcing entry through my back door, leaving visible marks on the wood and lock. The police stayed to investigate, taking my statement and reviewing nearby security cameras from my neighbors. 2 days later, a detective contacted me, revealing disturbing news. The man at my door was not a delivery driver at all. Through camera footage from the neighborhood, Investigators discovered he had parked an unmarked vehicle down the street just out of sight. More shockingly, the detective explained they believed the man had obtained my address illegally by following me home from a grocery store. I visited earlier that week. The investigators traced back to surveillance footage from that store and found the man loitering near my car in the parking lot, clearly observing my movements later. He was caught on camera noting my license plate number. Detectives conclude he likely obtained my home address through an unauthorized contact who had access to confidential records, a chilling violation that made my stomach twist with fear and anger. The police assured me they would continue searching for the suspect and advised me on improving security measures around my home for weeks after Ward struggled with feelings of vulnerability, no longer feeling safe. Even within my own walls, I installed security cameras, added motion-activated lights, and reinforced every lock in my house. Months passed, and eventually detectives informed me they had identified and arrested the man responsible. He had attempted similar acts of stalking and harassment elsewhere using the same disturbing methods. Although he was in custody, my sense of safety was permanently shaken. Years have now passed since the terrifying night, but the fear has never completely left. I have learned that danger can conveniently disguised as something as simple and harmless as late-night food delivery to this day. I remain cautious, always checking carefully before opening my door, always remembering the unsettling experience of that evening in Sacramento, when a seemingly ordinary night almost became a waking nightmare. Before we dive into the next story, if you're visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon to stay updated with our upcoming scary stories. Your support means the world to us, so please share this. The stories with your friends and family. Thanks. Last week, I was sitting home on my living room couch, flipping through channels, trying to find something good to watch. It had been a long day at work, and I just wanted to relax for a while. I glanced at my phone, 9:30 p.m. Early enough to watch a movie before going to be done. Of the movies listed was Home Alone, a classic I'd enjoyed countless times since childhood. Nostalgia's wept over me without hesitation. I selected the channel. The familiar opening credits made me smile, transporting me instantly back to my carefree childhood days. As I settled deeper into the couch, grabbed a nearby blanket and got comfortable. The movie progressed, bringing waves of laughter and fond memories. Soon, I reached the iconic part where Harry and Marv were breaking into the Mollister house. It was a scene that always amused me, watching Kevin cleverly outsmart the two thieves show ever as Marv was shown creeping into the house wielding a crowbar. I heard a loud crash from my right. My heart jumped as I whipped my head toward the sound. The window next to me had shattered glass fragments sprayed across the carpet and coffee table, glittering ominously in the glow of the TV. My heart raced wildly as my eyes quickly adjusted to the sudden chaos. Standing there, framed by shards of broken glass, was a tall figure dressed entirely in black. The intruder's face was obscured by a mask, but even without seeing his features, the anger and radiating from him were palpable. My breath caught in my throat, and panic froze me in place before I could even stand up or scream for help. I suddenly felt an iron-like grip wrap around my neck from behind. My eyes widened in fear and shock. There were two of them. I was being attacked from both sides. I sped for air as my attacker tightened his grip and struggled violently, desperate for freedom. Adrenaline surged through me, making my mind race at lightning speed as it fought against the powerful grip choking me. I remembered an old self-defense lesson from high school. With every ounce of strength I had left, I jabbed my elbow sharply into the attacker's chest behind. That the sudden strike caught them off guard. His gripe enough for me to slip out of his hold instantly without wasting a precious second. I bolted from the couch, barefoot in my pajamas and socks. I dashed head through my living room toward the front door in a frantic rush. I unlocked and swung it open, bursting into the cool night air. The street was quiet and dimly lit by street lamps, casting elongated shadows on the pavement. As I sprinted down my driveway, I heard rapid footsteps echoing behind me. Panic surged anew, pushing me forward faster than I had ever run before. Thank goodness I had been on the track team during high school event, though it had been years since then. The training seemed to kick right back, empowering me through my fear. I raced along the sidewalk, not daring to look back. My lungs burned, my pulse hammered, but the thought of being caught drove me forward. Eventually, after what felt like an eternity, it turned a sharp corner onto a side street and ducked behind a large oak tree, pressing my back against, broken only by distant barking dogs and my heavy breathing. After about 20 minutes had passed, without any signs of pursuit, I cautiously emerged from my hiding spot, nervously glancing around. I slowly made my way back home, constantly vigilant of any lurking threats. My heart still raced as I stepped cautiously through the open front door. Noticing how eerily quiet the house now felt, the TV was still on, illuminating the mess of broken glass scattered across my carpet. I immediately reached for my cell phone, dialing 911. My voice trembled slightly as I described the events to the dispatcher, who assured me help would arrive swiftly. The police arrived about 10 minutes later, their flashing blue and red lights casting reassuring beams across my street. Officers quickly checked my home, examining every room thoroughly. They found nothing. Whoever the intruders were, they'd vanished as quickly. The officers carefully documented my account and then placed bright yellow "Do Not Cross" tape around the shattered window once their work was done. They assured me they'd increase patrols in my neighborhood and advised me to call immediately if anything suspicious happened. Again, sleep didn't come easily that night. It tossed and turned, haunted by the memory of being attacked in my own home. The safety I'd always felt in this place had been shaken deeply. At sunrise, exhausted, yet determined, I called a window repair service. They arrived promptly, replacing the window within a few hours. Watching them work was oddly reassuring, each penny of new glass symbolizing an effort to reclaim my peace and security. Determined never to feel this vulnerable again, I immediately started researching home security measures. It planned to install a state-of-the-art alarm system and a video doorbell camera. It was a significant, carefully saving the money I'd earned working diligently after college. This, I thought, was the ideal use of those hard-earned savings. Over the next several days, my heightened caution gradually eased. I returned to a routine resembling normality, though I remained watchful. Every creak or distant noise would cause a brief jolt of anxiety, reminding me of that terrifying night. Reflecting on the incident, the eerie coincidence of the movie's scene and the actual break-in replayed in my mind, it felt bizarre, almost surreal, that real life had mirrored cinematic moments so perfectly and horrifyingly. It made me think how casually we watch fictional dangers on TV without truly imagining them happening in reality. Now, weeks later, my home feels secure once more. The cameras are installed, the alarm system is active, and newfound vigilance is firmly established. Still, the vivid memory lingers as a chilling reminder that the most familiar and comfortable places can become frighteningly unpredictable. In an instant, I work for the Metro Nashville Police Department, Property Crimes Division. Most of my days are paperwork and follow-ups on burglaries. Nothing glamorous, but the habit of noticing small things sticks with you. So when my wife Erin and I finally closed on a little ranch-style house in Spring Hill, Tennessee, my brain kept switching between newlywed excitement and detective mode. We moved in on a humid Friday in late September. The neighborhood felt safe. Dog walkers, yards full of college football flags, and a hardware store that still cut keys by hand. The sellers had already moved to Florida, so the place was empty except for the basic appliances they left behind the second night. After stacking the last of our own boxes in the guest room, I decided to map out where smoke alarms and attic access panels were. Old Habitic limbed the pull-down ladder in the hallway ceiling. One sweep with my flashlight, and I froze 30 cardboard boxes sat against the rafters, neatly taped, each marked with a thick black marker. Loft on Larkspur Drive was 25 Mine North, nowhere near our old apartment or the seller's forwarding address. Erin climbed halfway up the ladder and looked over my shoulder. "Did the movers mess up?" she asked. But I inventoried everything we sent inside one box. I found knitted sweaters, the kind you see in antique shops. Another held framed photos of an elderly couple at Gatlinburg, the Smokies in the background. Nothing valuable enough for a thief to stash, but nothing that belonged in our attic. We wrote the phone number of the moving company on a sticky note and left the boxes alone. I closed the hatch, pulled the ladder up, and tried to forget about them long enough to enjoy our first full night in the house. My phone buzzed me wake, motion alert from the cheap battery. Camera had balanced on a kitchen counter until we installed it properly. The alert time read 2:17. Memisakans. Later we both heard its oft deliberate steps above our bedroom ceiling, old joists bopping their own. But these footfalls had weight and rhythm, healed to a creaking down the length of the attic. Threw me out of bed. To grab my off-duty Glock from the small safe in the night, whispered for Erin to stay put, and stepped into the hall. The attic ladder was still folded up, latch hooked. Whoever was up there hadn't come through this hatchicled 911 event. I was a detective. Procedure mattered. I was inside jurisdiction, not responding. Tomahawk. While I waited, I checked every door and window, and one forced. No glass shards, no muddy prints. The footsteps stopped after maybe 40 seconds, but left assailant 10 times heavier. The dispatcher kept me on the line until 2 Spring Hill patrol units arrived, lights off, just their spotlights sweeping the front yard. Officers Morales and Denton's. At the base of the attic ladder, while I pulled it down, we went up together, my last weapon low and ready. The 13 mystery boxes stayed exactly where I'd found them, but their tops were sliced open. Now empty space yawned inside each. Whatever had been in them was gone. Further back behind the chimney stack, we found a camping mattress, a battery lantern, and 3 empty water gallons next to them. Several granola bar wrappers and 2 grocery bags labeled City Mission Pantry. Whoever lived there hadn't bothered to hide these tup. Well, they had tucked themselves in a corner, invisible from the ladder hatch unless you crawled the length off the joists, like we just had the officers radioed for a K9 unit. But the attic had only one practical exit, a square, cut out on the far gable wall leading down to the garage framing. In the thin insulation dust under that cutout is always Ingle waffle pattern boot print pointing inward. The match to that print pointing outward was missing, meaning squatter might still be in the walls or had dropped to the garage and slipped outside before we mobilized back on the ground floor. West started a canvas. An officer walked the perimeter. Another rapped on neighbors' doors asking had seen a stranger. While I opened the boxes fully, at the bottom of one is spotted a folded unemployment benefits letter. Mercis Nor. The letter was 3 months old. It knew the address, a small brick house involved in a welfare check. Call last year after an elderly woman hadn't been seen for days. When officers entered, she was deceased of natural causes. No sign of her son, who neighbors said was in trouble. The son's name, Derek Lofton, mid-30s, small-time theft, prior last known to couch surf around Williamson County. I relayed that to Morale. She punched it into the mobile terminal. Lofton had no current warrant, but had been cited for spassing in August, caught sleeping in an abandoned farm she'd outside Franklin at dawn. That the seller's disclosure mentioned our center of inspection. I dug through our closing paperwork, and on the date August 25th, about 5 weeks earlier, the inspector reported no anomalies. That meant Lofton moved in after the inspection, but before our closing walkthrough on September 19th. That minimum, he'd lived in our attic 2 weeks, probably longer, listening to realtors show our future bedroom to prospective buyers, watching electricians swap out light fixtures, waiting for the perfect silence to rooms downstairs, and eat. When the patrol sergeant arrived, we set up a perimeter search with thermal cameras. They found nothing by dawn. Whoever had stolen the attic life with surreptitious calm had melted away Sunday afternoon. I drove to Franklin and spoke with a neighbor of Mrs. Loftonshire. Remembered Derek loading a pickup with boxes after the estate sale, but said he looked strung out and didn't speak. My guess, he moved the leftover personalities somewhere, maybe est or shed, then hid the minor attic later, using them like a twisted memory blanket. I returned home and checked the crawl space door behind the garage water heater. The padlock the sellers left was intact, but fresh scratch marks. The haspa practices lip with a shim could open if it might have come and gone that way many times, leaving no sign at the main door's Aaron. And I spent the next 2 days installing aerial security system, contact sensors, glass break detectors, and a wired attic camera aimed at the rafters. I added deadbolt to the crawlspace door and put motion lights under both eaves. On Wednesday, I received a call. Derek Lofton had been picked up in Colia 30 minutes south after trying to pawn custom jewelry that matched an open burglary case. During processing, deputies found an SD card in his backpack on a time-stamped video shot from an attic or attic. The file started 3 weeks before we closed in. The more empty rooms are bathed in rental company staging lights. Then came clips of Aaron and me on the final walkthrough, talking excitedly about furniture placement, unaware of the lens peeking through Avant grill above us. The last video was dated the night the patrol units arrived. The camera jerks, heavy breathing, a flashlight beam flailing through insulation. The Nas liver of night sky. A shed drops from the roof onto the back lawn and runs loft. Ton took a plea on burglary charges, unrelated to us. But the prosecutor added a stalking enhancement for the attic footage. He got 26 months in state prison. Small comfort maybe at knowing exactly where he sleeps at night. Helps me breathe easier. Aaron laughs. Now when I triple check the attic camera before bed, but we both know the laughter is a shield some evenings while sealing evidence bags at work. Imagine the sound of soft tread above ceiling drywall and feel that thin layer of sheetrock between normal life and unseen threat. I've worked dozens of break-ins, but nothing rattled me like finding someone else's world nested above mine. Waiting, owning a home, always felt like an end goal, a permanent marker of safety, turns out. Walls are only wood and nails. Security is the vigilance you practice, not a feeling you inherit. If you ever buy an old Tennessee ranch with an easy-to-climb roof line, do yourself a favor, sweep the attic thoroughly, change every lock, and set a camera watching the rafters. Because sometimes the very first housewarming gift you receive is a stranger at